For nearly a century, Earth had been silent. The great powers of the Orion Arm, the Syndicate, the Dominion, the Calari Swarm, looked upon the blue planet as a primitive backwater, a world that had lost its place in the stars. Humanity had fallen quiet after the collapse, its old colonies abandoned, its fleets rusting in orbit. To the galaxy, Earth was defenseless. But the galaxy was wrong. The first fleet of the Dominion arrived in Seoul on a cold November night. Their warships, shaped like black knives, drifted into orbit above the moon. They broadcast the same ultimatum they had delivered to dozens of conquered species. Surrender your resources. Surrender your young. Kneel, and you may survive. Earth did not respond. Satellites continued their silent drift. No warships launched. No planetary shields activated. To the Dominion commanders, it looked like confirmation: Earth had nothing left. Then, on the dark side of the moon, the void rippled. A single leviathan of steel emerged from shadow. It was not sleek, not alien, but brutal and angular, bristling with weapons. The Dominion admiral hesitated, scanning for records. None matched. The machine was colossal, larger than their own dreadnoughts, larger even than the orbital fortresses of Calari Prime. The name burned across its armored hull in blocky human letters: UNSS Leviathan. And it was not alone. One by one, more shapes broke their camouflage, ancient orbital docks splitting open, asteroids revealing hidden hangars, shadows peeling away to show the truth. 20 ships, then 50, then 100. They were relics of a secret program whispered about even among humans themselves: Project Silence. For decades, Earth had played dead. While the galaxy dismissed them as broken, humanity had built in secret, constructing war machines unlike anything the stars had ever seen. These were not exploration vessels. They were not diplomatic envoys. They were dreadnoughts, city-sized warships designed for one purpose: to ensure that humanity would never kneel again. The Dominion fleet opened fire first. Beams of star-hot plasma lanced across the void, splashing in auroral waves across the Leviathan's shimmering armor. The human vessel replied with a single pulse from its spinal cannon. The beam was quiet, almost delicate, then a Dominion cruiser unfolded like paper and vanished into dust. Across Earth, lights flickered on in bunkers and command centers that had pretended to be museums. Generals who had spent lifetimes training for a war nobody believed in stepped to their stations. An old woman with silver hair, the architect of Project Silence, stood at a transparent table and traced the curve of the Sol system with her finger. "Admiral Reyes," she said, voice steady. "Unseal the choir." In the black, the dreadnoughts answered. Their names were borrowed from myths and storms. Golgotha and Thunderhead, Seraph and Basilisk, Krakatoa and Morrigan ***. They formed up around the Leviathan like wolves circling a fire, their hulls humming with contained fury. At first, the galaxy thought Earth's audacity was madness. Then the choir sang. The dreadnoughts did not shout on standard channels, they spoke in gravitic syllables, in ripples across the spacetime lattice itself. The soundless hymn folded the battlefield like silk. Dominion targeting arrays blinked and showed nothing where human ships had been a heartbeat before. Missiles arced, slowed, and hung in place as if caught in amber. From the Leviathan's keel, armored hangar petals opened. Out flew arrowhead drones in glittering swarms, each one a thinking spear. They threaded the Dominion formation, leaving trails of silent, expanding spheres, micro-singularities that popped like midnight flowers. Where they bloomed, ships buckled and went still. The Dominion admiral ordered a retreat. Admiral Reyes did not pursue. He knew what the galaxy would now do. Deny, then rage, then unite. He turned the dreadnought phalanx so their armored flanks faced outward, toward the far stars. The choir modulated, sewing a net of distortion across near-Earth space. The planet below remained a blue jewel, untouchable. News rippled through the Orion arm like a shockwave. The Syndicate embargoed Earth within the hour. The Kalari swarm redirected 3 broods from their holy conflict to contain the Terran threat. On the northern fringes, quiet worlds lit their beacons and whispered prayers to the old constellations. Maybe the humans have returned. They had. But not as conquerors. Project Silence had not been born out of lust for empire. It had been born from a vow, made in the ashes of the collapse, when Earth's first empire shattered under its own weight and 100 colonies died gasping in the dark. Never again would human survival depend on the mercy of distant neighbors or the patience of predators. The Dreadnoughts were not a spear, they were a shield with teeth. Still, shields have edges. 3 days after the Dominion retreat, a Syndicate task force emerged at the edge of Neptune's orbit, broadcasting legalisms and threats. They demanded inspections, reparations, a tribunal. The choir answered not with weapons but with geometry. Sol's outer boundary rippled, distances stretched, and the task force found itself gently but inexorably translated 12 light minutes back, as though the system itself exhaled them away. No, Admiral Reyes said, to the stars and to the listening universe. We will not be judged. The galaxy called it arrogance. Earth called it sovereignty. In the following weeks, emissaries arrived under flags of truce, curious Kalari priests, a Syndicate accountant with trembling hands, even a Dominion prince, stripped of weapons but not of pride. They were brought aboard the Leviathan and walked its endless corridors. Gardens under armored glass, schools of children laughing in. Spin gravity rings, factories that printed food and medicine as readily as hull plating. They saw a city that could sail between suns and live there indefinitely, a civilization turned inward to endure, now opening its eyes once more. On the observation deck, the old architect met them. You looked at our silence and thought it was emptiness, she told the prince. You mistook patience for weakness. We chose to be quiet so we could survive the noise. And now, the prince asked, gazing at Earth, a blue shimmer in the dark. Now, she said, we choose when to speak. Beyond the glass, the choir shifted key. More dreadnoughts emerged, not from hiding, but from the birth canals of new docks. They were smaller than the first generation, sleeker, tuned as much for rescue as for war. One carried hospital wings like petals, another bore habitats for refugees. The message was simple and, to some, terrifying. Humanity would protect itself, and help those who asked. At the edge of the system, wreckage drifted, the bones of the first invaders. Tiny rescue capsules blinked in soft arcs. The Leviathan's tractor fields drew them in, one by one, despite protests from some on Earth who said mercy was a luxury. The architect overruled them. Let the galaxy see, she said. Strength without cruelty. The Dominion would raid again. The Syndicate would plot. The swarm would test Earth's edges, as all predators test fences. But the choir had learned new verses, and humanity had rediscovered its voice. The galaxy thought Earth was defenseless. Then the Dreadnoughts broke the silence, and the stars learned to listen.